Robert Greenberg was born and raised in Ottawa, the son of Gilbert Greenberg, who was one of the founding brothers of the Minto Group. Robert worked at Minto for over 2 decades alongside his brothers and cousins. He last held the position of Executive Vice President of Minto and remains on the company's Business Advisory Committee. Robert is an avid fisherman and has launched American Baitworks, an innovative American-based fishing tackle company that provides custom manufacturing of fishing lures. He's the proud father of 2 adult children and divides his time between Ottawa and Florida. Along with being a strong supporter of numerous philanthropic causes, both as part of Minto and as an individual, Robert has been an instrumental volunteer, fundraiser, and donor within Ottawa's Jewish community. Robert was previously a chair of the Jewish Federation of Ottawa's annual campaign and worked tirelessly to ensure that the campaign was a huge success. He's a dedicated fundraiser and born leader, and with a ready smile and willingness to lend a hand, something he learned from his parents and has brought forward to teach his children. So, welcome, Robert.
Thank you.
So, it's been quite some time that you've actually, the two of us have been together. But one of my fondest memories is you were the first campaign chairman that I had when I worked for the Jewish Federation of Ottawa. And I have to say that I learned a ton of things working alongside you.
Thank you.
Well, first was you were probably one of the most positive people I've ever dealt with. You know, sometimes when it comes to being a campaign chairman, you're stuck doing a whole lot of canvasses. And you took almost every single one of them with pleasure. And with you, it wasn't that you were just going to go and solicit the folks that had the large capacity. You celebrated the gifts of $180 just as much as you celebrated the gifts of $18,000. So can you tell me kind of in your mind how that kind of leadership needs to be?
Well, I think, part of the Jewish culture, is one of giving and helping out your fellow human beings. So I was brought up with very strong philanthropic values by my parents, and it passed on to us. So I had excellent role models, to watch and learn from. So I think, that was before the age of social media. So even if people don't have, a relative that they can learn from, there's certainly, all kinds of good examples of philanthropic people that are excellent at what they do out there, and they're willing to share their information, much like I am right now.
Thank you. So it's a little bit more challenging for you because you have one of your kids is half of a world away. How are you imparting those philanthropic values to your kids?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that you can do that. I mean, obviously one is giving and one is working with, organizations that are important to you. I think for me, I subscribe to Maimonides' 7 ladders of giving.
In Maimonides' 8 degrees of charity, the first level is donating, but with reluctance and regret. The second level is happily donating, but giving less than what should be given. The third level is donating, but only after being asked. The fourth level is donating before being asked. The fifth level is donating when the recipient is aware of the donor's identity, but the donor still doesn't know the specific identity of the recipient. The sixth level is where the donor knows who the recipient is, but the recipient is unaware of the donor. The seventh level is donating where both donor and recipient remain anonymous to each other. And the highest form of charity is helping another to become self-supporting by a gift or a loan or by finding employment for the recipient.
And that might be something for a future podcast for you. But basically, the highest way of helping your fellow man is to provide them with employment, with a job. And so what I've been doing since I've retired from Minto and started up my own business, I've actually started to create manufacturing jobs. And it's not that the company that I'm heading up, my main purpose behind it is to provide employment for people And at the end of the day, hopefully, it's financially successful. So I've sort of taken, a little bit of the way that I used to, I would donate to lots of charities and, help fundraise for, for certain ones, et cetera, et cetera. Now I'm spending a lot of time on this new business that I've created, and I'm really focused on creating jobs.
Wow. And so how do your kids see that? Because you're a step away, so they can't really see what you're doing in Florida.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, they can listen to me. They can also see that their dad just turned 60, and, I'm not sailing off into the sunset. I'm trying to do something, good and create, products that people want and provide employment so that people can put food on the table and run a company that has strong values, what I consider Minto and Greenberg family ethics. That's what I've taken to my company, American Baitworks,
Right.
and tried to instill on them.
Right. So you're an exceptionally generous person, almost to a fault. I remember, during the campaign, there were very few times that you would say no to me.
Yeah.
How do you, though, decide what to give to and what not to give to?
I don't know. I guess it sort of varies with your age and what you're doing. Like, so that, when I was, heavily involved in my Minto career and bringing up, even before I had a young family, I would have been involved in all kinds of things in the Jewish community. Basically, every time I went into the Jewish community center, it would cost me $500. Someone would come up to me and ask me for something or another, and
Right.
be quite honest with you, like it was a pleasure. And so now with me personally, I've stepped back a little bit from having much of a public face in Ottawa. So I've sort of been hiding for 10 years, in the corners or whatever. But I've started to focus mostly more on bigger gifts, in terms of my giving, and because I don't have the time to research organizations that I would give to like I did in the past. I've been, let's say on the Jewish side, there's been 2 or 3 things that I've been giving, quite a bit of money to. I'm a huge believer in the federation process, where which is much like United Way, where you make a gift to an umbrella organization, and they are the people that dole it out to the various charitable organizations. It can be very tough to play the role of King Solomon, and be wise enough to understand which organization deserves how much. So we have a group of volunteers. I'm sure at United Way and at Federation, where there's a bunch of people that sit around and they do the allocations, and they're
Right.
human, and they do the best they can. And
Right.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Well, do you set aside X amount of dollars a year, or is it much more on a reactive?
Probably a little bit of both. I probably look more in terms of my long-term commitments. One of the biggest personal gifts I gave was to the shul out in Barhaven, and I ended up probably giving more than I thought I would initially, but it was basically because I wanted the folks at the synagogue to focus on running their programs rather than trying to get raise more money to pay off the mortgage. So I just
Right.
I had quite I've got a lot of affinity for Rabbi Bloom, and I just I wanted to see him, as much as he could, focus his energy more on engaging people rather than having to fundraise, because the people in some of these large organizations, they wear 3 or 4 hats or whatever, and for every minute that they have to take off fundraising, it's keeping them from doing some other good work. So
Exactly. Yeah.
so that would be one of the things I'd be focused on.
And so, you've been an amazing volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your favorite part of volunteering?
Probably when I get home from the event, or when I'm done from the canvas. I did most of my work at an incredibly busy time in my life. There's an old expression, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. So, my best fundraising days are probably 10 years ago. And, for a period of probably 20 years, I worked extraordinarily hard at fundraising. I was fortunate that I was my own boss and I could, keep my own hours, et cetera, et cetera. From the time when you joined, things got a lot better in terms of the professional help. I mean, I think what we've seen over the last 20 years, on the fundraising side of things is that the professionals that are involved in it are that much more capable than they were 20 years prior. And, so when you have, if you're a campaign chair like I was, I took on a 2-year responsibility, and I think you joined me the second year. Having a very competent professional alongside you makes the job a whole lot easier. So for volunteers, having good, strong professional leadership is vital.
Well, Robert, thank you so much for your time. You're still my favorite Greenberg. And I hope to see you soon in person.
You got it. Thanks for allowing me to share my thoughts with you and your viewers.
Thank you, Robert. Hi, folks. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here.